It's time again for another installment of The Basics, and on today's show I'm going back into the X-Files CCG because there have been questions about the 7 phases per turn in the X-Files CCG, so I'm going to explain them to you today. So let's get started, shall we? Now, because the X-Files CCG is an investigative CCG, which means the whole purpose of the game is to investigate by using agents and equipment and personal battles to determine, using the sight cards, what your opponent's X-File is. But to do this, there are 7 phases in each turn of the gameplay, and I'm going to explain them to you. First off, you have what's called the briefing phase. So once you start the game, you draw 7 cards. The briefing phase is where both players draw cards to bring their hands up to 10 cards each. So you will be drawing 3 additional cards at the start of your first turn. That will give you your 10 cards in your hand. The second phase is called the healing phase. So you will remove any 1 token from any agent in the hospital. Now, obviously in your first turn or 2 you're not going to have anybody in the hospital, so you can skip this phase until you have agents in the hospital, but it is something you should at least go through the motion and just check, okay, there's no hospital, there's no agents, so I don't have to worry about the token at this time. The third phase is called the requisition phase. This brings into play the equipment cards. So basically, equipment can be assigned to any eligible agent. Also, if you have 2 agents in the same location, so that would be on the sight cards, of course, they can swap equipment if they want, and this will help you investigate better depending on your agent's strengths and weaknesses. Number 4 is the deployment phase. So you take your agents that are available, that you started the game with, you can assign them to the field, bureau, or hospital. It is your choice, but as the game progresses you will know where to deploy them and why, and also with their equipment. You move next into the case assignment phase. Basically, the investigating player at that point may play 1 sight card. That's it. That is the case assignment phase. You play the sight card. From that you moved into the most, I want to say, jam-packed phase of them all, and that is number 6, the investigation phase. So basically you conduct the skill check listed on the sight card. So here. Each player now can play up to 3 cards, so this is where your events and your other cards come into play. As I've stated on previous episodes, you can play 3 cards per turn in the X-Files, and this is why you do it in the investigation phase. You also resolve the cards and anything they may or do. You can determine if the prerequisite is achieved after the card effects have been resolved. If the prerequisite is met, ask a characteristic question and or guess the X-Files identity. So it's the sight cards that help you ask the question to determine your opponent's X-File. Finally, when that is all done, you discard the sight card. It is now null and void, goes into your discard pile. When that is complete, you move into the final phase, which is the debriefing phase. And pretty much the debriefing phase is extremely simple. You may discard up to 3 cards if you so desire. Those are the 7 phases of each X-Files CCG turn. As I said, you may not be doing every phase on your first turn, but you will develop your strategy as you go along. You will be doing every phase. You will be making sure that you take care of every phase properly and that you can do everything you can possibly do in those phases, because your opponent is going to be doing that as well. Now, that being said, a lot of new players to the X-Files CCG do find the number of steps per turn very daunting and very challenging. What I can tell you is that once you get into a rhythm of playing the game enough times, it'll be second nature to you. There's other card games that have similar problems when you first jump in, like with Magic, with the upkeep. But again, X-Files CCG is actually a fun game once you get the hang of it. You'll be fine after that, trust me. That's all for today. Have a great day, everybody.